My name is Vaughn, and I am playing Francis Crick in Photograph 51. This is my first production with Minnesota Jewish Theater, and I'm really looking forward to it because I know so very little about the theater company. I've known it's been out there for a while, and embarrassingly, I don't know that I've ever seen anything from them. But it's one of those that's always been kind of on the fringe for me. So this is exciting, getting to work with those people who have worked with Minnesota Jewish Theater. I think all of us, with the exception of maybe one other, our actress, might be new to the company this year. So yeah, it kind of comes to be a really exciting, particularly this production is really exciting because there's just a lot of newness to it. So I'm excited, I'm looking forward to it. Photograph 51 is, well, it's the story of the discovery of the structure of DNA and what they were able to do with it after that, break it apart, figured out how it replicated itself, became basically it was discovering life. And the three, well, I guess there's four gentlemen in it, but the three main gentlemen, Francis Crick and Watson and Wilkins, were kind of given the credit of discovering it more or less on their own when they were given the Nobel Prize. And what they failed to recognize, or maybe they didn't think at the time it was necessary, was that Rosalind Franklin, who took the first picture, X-ray crystallography picture of DNA, is what led them to the discovery they had, and that her name was omitted from any of those records. As being so integral to the discovery of life is why we're at this play today. And what I like about the play, though, is that it's not, it kind of hit the audience over the head with this idea that we're so sorry, and isn't this terrible what us men did to this poor Jewish woman. She comes across, there are moments where you kind of think, well, I guess she gets what she deserves. I mean, she comes, there's a strength and we can look at it, particularly the man's point of view in the play, as cold and rigid. And we can kind of say, well, she wasn't very friendly. So, you know, and it's really easy for us to say, well, we didn't really like her, and she was unlikable. But it's a story that in our world of the play, we tell the story over and over and over again. How she came into the lab, how she affected our lives, how the relationships grew or didn't grow, as the case may be. But and it's through that telling again and again and again that we don't necessarily go back to apologize, but that we're going back, each of our characters are going back to try and remember something more. There's a beautiful line that Casper, Dr. Casper the American, brings up that Rosalind kind of catches on to. And it's this idea that the more you look at something beautiful, the more beautiful it becomes. And her connection with this crystallography, this mapping of genes and looking at things on their molecular level, is about the overlapping patterns and patterns and patterns and patterns, and finding that beauty in it. She has this great monologue at the top of the show where she talks about as a child photographing leaves, but not as giant leaves, but getting really close so that you see that map vein working in that leaf. That, to me, as an artist who is also, kind of my background is that I originally went to school to be a biologist. And it's funny how people kind of always think, well, how can you be an artist and a scientist? And I see them as being so similar to each other. I had a good dancer friend of mine who math was just so easy for her. And I'm talking like trigs and calculus and physics and that kind of wacky math. But it was so easy for her, and I thought, that's so weird. And then I thought, no, this is a woman who lives in time and space. So of course numbers make sense to her. So I've always found there's a really great connection between people who see science as beautiful art. And that's what I really love about this piece in particular. And then Francis, of course, is such a fun character because, I don't know, he's just something that I've never really had an opportunity to play. And he's this smart, you know, sophisticated, philosophical Brit who is also kind of a bit of a party boy, you know. He's still rather young, he's learning his PhD, and then they become rock stars because they discover the secret of life and win a Nobel Prize. it's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around, but it's only been 2 rehearsals, so I have plenty of time to work that out. But yeah, I'm finding the more I